Ladies and gentlemen, we are now so much lucky tonight to be able to experience the great expertise of Mr. Yang Chiu, the partner of Foster & Partners, London, United Kingdom. Foster & Partners is one of the most innovative architecture and integrated design practices in the world. Over the past 4 decades, the practices pioneer a sustainable approach to architecture through the wide range of work from urban master plan, public infrastructure, airports, cultural buildings, offices and workplaces, to private houses and product design. Based in London, with office worldwide, the practice is in international reputations with building in the 6 continents. Mr. Yang Chiu himself is a designer for Foster & Partners. Is involved in many famous projects worldwide, including the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., United States of America, London City Hall, Masdar City in Dubai, Ruskin Museum Extension in Moscow, Cheklapkok Airport in Hong Kong, and countless other major projects. Worth mentioning is one of the current projects is 200 Greenwich Street, World Trade Center, New York. We must thank Mr. Yang Chiu for accepting an invitation to be our honored speaker for tonight. Please join me to welcome Mr. Yang Chiu. ขอเสียงปรบมือต้อนรับ Mr. Yang Chiu ค่ะ
Thank you for the introduction. And good evening, everybody. It's my honor to be here, my first time in Phuket. Thank you very much, Mr. Boon, for inviting me down here and all the sponsors and speakers before me. I'm very excited to share some of my experiences with you. I'm going to talk loosely about the projects that we do as a practice, and also things that are personal to me. I think that may be of interest. So this is a glance of who we are. We're about 1,500 people now, mostly based in London, in the headquarters. This year is actually our 50th anniversary. We started 50 years ago. And 50 years ago was Norman, his wife, Richard Rogers, and his wife. The 4 of them. The average age at the time, I think was in the 60s, was 32. Interestingly, 50 years later, our average age now has only grown by 2 years. So we're a very young company. Our average age is 34. Lots of energy to drive and push things forward. This is where we are around the world. We have about 30 offices. Locations mainly in Europe, Asia, and US. This is a map of our projects around the world. We have about 350 projects, again, mostly based in Europe and the US, and some in Asia, Australia, and Africa. We do projects from the biggest building in the world, the Beijing airport, to the smallest of projects, such as a door handle. And there's such a big range of projects. We've had to, as a team of designers, we've had to adapt, change, and evolve to be able to come up with a method, or for us, rather, it's a way of life to be able to deal and design such a wide range of projects. And I'd like to talk about projects, more well-known projects. People may know here the Swiss Re Insurance headquarters, or also known as the Gherkin in London. It's known for its bullet-shaped form. It's one of the very first towers that was built after the after the 70s, I think there was the NatWest Tower further down. And at the time, working with the client, working with the local authority, they were very concerned how people would react to a tall tower like this. It's about 180 meters, and you can see the surroundings, the buildings are not very tall. That's why we made the top of the building taper in. So when you are sitting down or when you're walking around on the street level, you will never see the top. So it's less oppressive. And likewise, it tapers in at the base of the building, so that it's really inclusive. It's a space for people. It's a space for people to walk around. It's a space for events. It's a space for all kinds of activities in the centre of London. And we're able to do that because of the performance of the building. Its aerodynamic shape allows the wind to go through, creating a comfortable wind environment here. So there's no downdraft, there's no driving rain. We don't even need a rain cover here. And people often ask, how does a circular plan work? Is it really inefficient? Actually, it's not circular at all inside. We've got 6 square plans. So we've got these cutouts that allow the daylight to penetrate deeper into the floor, so creating a better space for people to work in. This is a lighting test that we've done to prove that actually daylight does get in further than an ordinary center core rectangular building. This is a little movie to show the entire design process. It's the entire design in 30 seconds. So every color represents the same volume of area. So we started with a shorter block, a taller block, a cylinder, and then we shaved the top off. And then these are the 6 cutouts that allow daylight to come in. And then we rotated every floor by 5 degrees, allowing the wind, the ventilation to flow better. And add cladding, that's it. And here's a couple of pictures on how this worked, the atrium. You see these are the cutouts. So the officers will have a view into the atrium and the outside. You can see these automated windows that will open when the building gets too hot. And that's another test of the wind environment, the air movement inside the building. And that actually forms the aesthetics of the building, these spiral lines that go all the way up to the top of the building. And that's the top of the building. It's not the tallest building in London. It's only 180 meters tall, but I think you probably get the best view here because you've got a 360-degree view, uninterrupted. We're able to do that because we've said we don't want to do what we've always done before. How about if we put the MEP downstairs? How about if we put the cooling towers the floor below? How about if we use a platform lift to come up here so there's no lift core? So there's nothing interrupting you when you come up here. The air return goes up here. All the wiring goes inside the cladding structure. There's air out at the base, and the cleaning machine is hidden underneath the floor, so it just extends out when the windows needs to be cleaned. This is another project people might know, the Apple Park, the Apple headquarters in Cupertino. It's going to open this year, housing more than 20,000 employees of Apple, totally carbon neutral. It didn't start out as a circle. This is the way we design. We look at various forms, different options, knocking down the the wrong answers to find the right one. So you can see we've got three curves linked together. We've got a more organic shape. We've got a triangular shape. They went through probably a 6-month process to find this current form. And more to it, we want the space to be enjoyed. So it's not just a place for people to work. There are over 4,000 new trees here, so the employees here could enjoy the working space as a park, as a place to go for a picnic, as a place for jogging, exercise, to give back to the community. This is an actual picture of the current construction. And following on from Apple headquarters, we're also designing a number of flagship stores for Apple. This is one of its first flagships in Turkey. It's opened about 5 years ago in Istanbul. And I think from looking at this, you think it's a typical Apple store. It's very clean, but we've seen it before. But actually, it's just a little bit better. It's like a floating box on water. These 16-meter glass panels have no metal structure holding them. It's just glass to glass. And there's over 300 square meters of roof floating on top of glass. There's no visible structure. It's just a little bit better than the ones before. And this is another one probably opened about 3 years ago in Hangzhou, West Lake. Again, over 60 meters of glass, free of metal fixings. You can see these 12-meter cantilever mezzanine floors, very, very thin, probably about half a meter thin, including the lighting, the LED lighting, which is a matrix-style infinity lighting. And you come inside, and it's similar to what you've seen before, but it's a little bit better. It's a little bit different. You would notice the wires in the previous versions coming up to connect to every device. In the new furniture design, which we also do, the wires will come up from the leg of the table to connect to the devices, so you don't see it. And you see this signature glass staircase, which we try to make as clean as possible. So they opened a couple of years ago, 2015. That's the opening picture. A picture on the opening day. Thousands of people turned up. Quite an exciting event. But this is 3 years ago now. We've moved on as well. The brand and the design has evolved again. We need to keep on evolving because everything is changing. The world is changing. Retail is changing. This is the new store on Regent Street, so opened in 2006, last year. And you would notice that something's a little different again. There's the introduction of these natural trees, the seating areas, the large event spaces. So these are no longer just shops. People aren't just coming here to buy their Apple Watches or the Apple products. You can buy this online. You can go to other retailers. But people come here as a gathering space. You come here to meet, come here to socialize, come here for events. It's retail as a social space. And the detailing have changed as well. It's become much more tactile. So it's no longer the cold glass. It's much warmer. It's more natural. You see the stone balustrade detail here. It's almost like it's carved out of a solid rock. It's another picture. It's the detailing of the cabinetry. This is another store in San Francisco. Could you hit play? Could you hit play? This is a movie. It should move. Does it work? Could you hit play? It's okay. I think it's working now. So you can see this, the new store in San Francisco. We've got these huge, probably the world's biggest sliding doors. So the boundary between the inside and outside have been blurred. It's an outdoor store, or it's a semi-outdoor space. So we're able to make people feel the air, the temperature of the air. You're able to feel the sunshine. It's part of the outdoor space. It's part of the environment. So it's evolving again. And then the latest Dubai store, which opened this year, also shares the same design. So we've got these big shading screens that open at night, allowing people to come out, enjoy the environment in this very hot city of Dubai. I know most of the people here probably are related to the construction industry, and I know that I wanted to talk about something that's more relevant for Phuket. It's my first time here. I know that I've seen a lot of nice villas, amazing hotels, amazing resorts. So I want to show some of our work in this field. Not a lot of people know us for our villas and resort hotels. We're probably better known for our airports, our skyscrapers, but we also do a lot of work like this. This one in particular in Singapore, completed about 10 years ago. And again, there's another one in France. It's a 4-story villa featuring a sky window which opens out. And again, you can see the relationship between the villa, which is done almost 10 years ago, and the new Apple store. It's about coming closer to the environment. It's a view at night. We also work with a number of international hotel chains. This is a quick glance. Some of the more well-known ones, or some of the older ones, finished in 2009, the Capella Hotel in Sentosa, Singapore, which is an extension of an existing structure. This one's quite interesting. This one's in Hainan. It's a golf resort, and it features about 300 little villas. They're shaped like little shells. And in all our work, we try to minimize the disruption to nature. So we hope that there's a good interaction, integration to the local surrounding. So if we design it right, so that the ventilation works really well, so it's really well shaded, then you're able to open the windows and doors all the time because it's comfortable, and you're closer to nature, you're closer to the environment, you're using less air conditioning. It's another a room type. There are 12 different room types that we do here. There's one of the larger villas with our own swimming pool, dining room. It's another one in Mauritius, working for Banyan Tree. I'm going to flick through these. And this is one of our latest ones in Turkey. Again, very lightweight roof, almost floating, and very see-through cladding. One of the rooms, again, the use of timber, stone. This is the dining room. And the outdoor and the inside, and the relationship between them, how to make it so that it's comfortable and convenient for the interaction between the spaces. It's a mezzanine space, a bedroom. It's another outdoor dining area. And this leads to other hotel work. So this one in Zurich, the Doder Hotel, it's a 5-star spa resort. This is one in London for the Seoul Melia Group called the Me Hotel. And this one recently finished in Shenzhen, China, the Meridian Hotel. And this is quite interesting. When we were doing the Meridian Hotel, we were also master planning the entire beachfront. So this is probably about 2.5 million square meters of built area. It's very dense. We want to make sure that every one of these has good quality of design. So what does that mean? Good quality of view, good circulation, but there's so much space. How do we prove this? Could you hit play on this? So this is one of the amazing things our team does. We have a programmer and scripter, and they've written the script so that these little agents, they walk around between the destinations, finding the easiest way to walk, so that we're able to determine what the easiest route is. So where we can put our shops, where we can put our clubhouse, and where we can put our condos and education, schools, etc. Can we play this one too? Yeah. So this one here is a real-time study of the view from every point. So we've placed a camera on every 10 meters, so you can see 180 meters, 180 degrees from left to right. So you can see each window, how much sea view you will get. So it's really interesting. These are interesting tools that help us to prove that our design really is making a difference. We've also got a psychologist in the office, which examines how much view would people consider to be sufficient of a sea view. Luckily, that smallest one passes here. And this leads to another type of work from the results. This is apartment residential towers. This one in Miami, not very tall, only 12 meters, and about 4 different room types. Very, it's a holiday apartment. So it also, like our other seafront projects, it features a very deep balcony, not only for outdoor activities but also for shading. This is south-facing, southwest, so it needs extensive shading. This is the built photograph. It's another photograph from the sea. There's another one in Miami, much taller. It features these sky bridges connecting the 2 towers, and we call them sky beaches. There are infinity pools here and sand, making them a really communal space at height. Some of the interior spaces, much more modern, clean lined. And this one is another one which was completed back in 2011, the Troika in KL. It's a very dense development. So what we've done is we've designed these shear walls that are structural to the design, but they also act as dividers and screens so that each apartment is sheltered from each other, and they all have a great view of the Petronas Towers. It's another one in Taiwan. It's being designed at the moment, very open. We call these sky villas, so each of them have their own pools and their balconies, quite a large apartment, and something very different. You see, this one's in New York, 50 Union Street. So here, because of the different weather conditions, you don't see the balconies. It's all closed in. But these are bay windows, so we want to encourage more daylight into the building. That's the lobby. And this one is something different again. This one's in Battersea, London, quite close to our office. Here you may recognize the Battersea Power Station. This is one of the largest regeneration projects in London. It's been decommissioned for over 50 years, so it's just sitting there, not doing very much. And we're putting a complex here, which is quite unique. It's a building of luxury residential, but affordable residential, and a hotel, and retail. You've got clinics, and you've got a metro station, all in one building. and the roof garden. It's a view through the avenue. We hope this is a new typology of buildings which will promote better social integration. And when we started looking at this, we looked at the map of London as it's a green map of London, so you can see the greenery in and around London. You can see that London's actually quite green on outskirts, but in central London there's not much. You can see Hyde Park, I think just there. So we said, why don't we make this the biggest green roof in the city? And it's open to the public, so people can come and use this. So there's sun lawn, there's outlook, there's a hammock room. People can come and do dances, tai chi, whatever. And we want this to be inclusive, so we tested this out. We tried to imagine what this would be like for summer, for autumn, for spring, and for winter. So we would choose species that will work for all these different seasons, so people will find it enjoyable to come up here. We also do, as an extension of our residential work and resort work, we also do product design. So we've designed chairs, light fittings, even windmills, turbines, and as an extension of that, we also go into transportation, boats, buses, cars. This one I know has recently been in Phuket. I was fortunate enough to work on this one early in my career, probably about 12 years ago. These are some of our other boats. And this is the Ocean Emerald. I thought it's interesting to show some of the earlier photographs of this. So what we want to do is something quite different. These powerboats, the rooms, they usually don't have very good daylight. So we thought, how do we introduce more daylight, more views to the rooms? So there's just a little bit better. This is when we're transporting it to the marina, lifting up. And it's the first day for the crew to come on. But what makes us really proud is this picture. Our designs seems to have been accepted by the general public. You know, the airport of Beijing is on the back of a Coke can. Our HSBC tower is on the back of a 100-bill note, a $100 bill. It's been made into stamps, posters, phone cards. It makes us proud. I also want to share something a bit more personal. This is what it looks like at a meeting. So this is our main office. We have 6 buildings. This is the Thames. I was sitting over here, one of the hundreds. And what does one of our day look like? This is Dana. She works on urban design. So there she's testing out people circulation, visibility. And sometimes I'll go sit with her for half an hour to go through some of the projects that we're working on together. But we work as an integrated team. We have engineers, we have rocket scientists, we have programmers. We never do anything in solitude. Everything is a collaboration. This is our materials lab. So we will sometimes come down here looking at different materials, how they come together. And this is sometimes I spend hours in workshops working with engineers, looking at structure of the building. and our design this is what the design session looks like. It's like a debate. You know, we're going through all kinds of possibilities. We debate about it. So the outcome is really robust. It's been tested. And we will do this sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, as long as it takes. And sometimes I do client presentations. Not very well, 'cause some of the guys are getting a bit bored. And if I'm lucky, I get to pick up some awards. And sometimes I hang out with Norman. But most of the time, it's a lot of fun. You know, we have fun, and if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. But I think I spend more time on airplanes, traveling between my projects. And it's quite fitting that my first project at Foster's is the Beijing airport. Back in 2003, we won the competition to build the world's largest airport. This is the competition drawing. At the time, notice that it has a golden roof. This is reality, not too different from the competition. And it has also a very Asian theme concept. It's a dragon's head, tail, dragon's body, and the dragon board at the front. And as you can see, these triangular roof lights are scales of the dragon. It didn't always look like this. During the competition, we had to go through different options, different iterations, just to make sure we've got the right answer. And everything from start of design to finished construction in 4 years' time. And that was hard work. There's no magic, it's just hard work. I think many of you in the same industry would understand what I'm talking about. And this is quite interesting. This is a comparison to London, map comparison. You can see Hyde Park here and the airport superimposed onto the London map. It's 1.3 kilometers. You can see Hong Kong airport, which is something we did about a decade earlier, just under half of its size. This is the competition model, about 8 meters long. You can see at the time, we were anticipating completion, the full completion, including the middle part, to be 2030. And we were so efficient that we completed this 22 years earlier. And these are some of my drawings during the concept design stage about the roof light, which is a key to wayfinding, natural daylight, saving energy and views out. So this is trying to determine what is the right level of daylight coming into the building. It's the model that we made and a picture of it. And that's the internal picture. So you notice that there's no need for any artificial lighting. It currently saves about 40% on the lighting energy. It's a sweeping arrival. And following that, I worked on the Queen Alia International Airport in Jordan. It's a much more, let's say, much harsher environment. It gets a little bit hotter than Hong Kong, than Beijing. And you can see it's also modular in construction. But the roof lights are much smaller because it's a hotter place. And it's also much deeper, so you don't get direct daylight into the space. And it's also, notice you've also got tiny louvers over the glass, again to reduce heat gain, by getting the right type of light in, so it's diffused, it's reflected, it's not direct. And at this point, I realized, actually, we're going way back. We're going 20 years back or 25 years back. Stansted Airport, one of our earliest airports, also has the same idea. But it's just a little bit different. At the time, there's a There's a big roof light with a diffuser, with a square diffuser, so that when you're in the space, it becomes, we wanted this place to be a joyful space. So you come here, you feel that you're going somewhere, they're going to a destination. The light also acts as a natural orientation, so you follow the light. These modules, you know where you're going, it reduces your anxiety. And in future, the next project that I was working on was the Al Haramain high-speed rail station, 4 stations in Saudi Arabia. Again, we're trying to introduce daylight in the space, but this time very different because it's very, very hot. So you see these shafts of light that will come in. It's connecting the 4 cities between Mecca and Medina. You can see even in its facade, it's very, very heavily shaded. So the buildings, the same ideas have to adapt in different environments. These are and it's also completely modular. The roof is constructed of GRP, glass reinforced plastic. It's produced locally. It's very lightweight. This is another one of the stations. And then I want to come back to somewhere closer to Thailand, in Hong Kong. This is a project that we worked on for over 10 years. It's a long time. It's the Hong Kong Cultural District, the West Kowloon Cultural District. So it's about, I think, 40 hectares, about 17 different cultural sites. And this is 3D massing of the entire master plan. We started by looking at this by other cities, a comparison to, say, London, the West End, New York, Broadway. This is the outline of the Kowloon master plan. If you fit it here, how many different cultural venues would you get? Actually, we identified 17 different ones. Theaters, so this is Covent Garden, Trafalgar Square, and Leicester Square. Galleries. And this is a photo of the, I think this is St. Martin's Lane. So you've got St. Martin's Lane Hotel, you've got a theatre over here. So right in the London's cultural district. But it's very different. This is London. Hong Kong looks like this. How do we bring this energy and identity to this new place that we're designing? We can't copy the whole thing. You know, it's interesting as a comparison, but it wouldn't work as a direct transplant into Hong Kong. We consulted various groups of people. We asked the people in Hong Kong, what do you want? What do you see in this space? You know, and interestingly, it's not skyscrapers. They don't want any more buildings there. They want somewhere they can go to as a family to relax, somewhere to do activities, somewhere where they can sit, somewhere they can cycle. They actually want a big open space. And that's why we gave them a big open space where you can hold all kinds of activities. And this is the current photo. Actually, there's a lot more construction happening here now. And it's a before and after, as it were. So you see the park that's being created here, and it's a park all along the waterfront. So we're giving the best resource back to the community. It links all the way to the park in Kowloon. And a little bit of insight on how we work. We will start out with a storyboard like this, hand sketched. We actually identify all the different tree species that we wanted to include here. And then it would become something like this, which is a bit more realistic. And eventually a rendering like this to be able to really convey our message and our vision to the relevant parties. So 5,000 new trees, reducing carbon dioxide by over 1,000 tons a year. And looking at the DNA of Hong Kong, this is the Kowloon Peninsula. So you see, this is this is the site, this is Nathan Road, and the DNA is very simple. It's one main road with little side streets, which are very exciting, a little bit like Thailand, I find. So you're on the main street, which is very vibrant, but it's not until you go into this side streets you start to discover. You discover the corner shops, you discover the food, you discover the markets. It's very exciting. Every little street is different. And we want to recreate that here too. And then you see the green connection. So again, it's just a little bit better. But just to have the planning, we don't think it's enough. You know, how do we bring more of Hong Kong, more elements into the space, into the whole master planning? So this is Nathan Road. We tried to study the DNA of Hong Kong. So firstly, we did a sketch. We said, okay, how wide is it? What's the proportion of the buildings and the streets? So it's about 15 stories tall versus 20 meters wide. And then we try to quantify what you would see as visual components. So let's say 24% is the billboards, 13% sky, 21% shop front, 8% people, 13% roads. And you take all these data, you combine them together, and you come up with something new, but using the same proportions. So this is one of our visions for the new streets. It's got all the billboards, shop fronts, but very convenient. There's no cars here. You can walk around. You can go left and right to all the shops you want to see. You're not blocked by cars. But it's just a little bit better than what you had before. All the infrastructure is hidden on the ground. So you've got the public transport, you've got taxis, and behind these facades is the state-of-art theaters, art galleries, museums. So it's convenient. So you're creating spaces like these that will look very similar, but we hope it's just a little bit better. And next I want to come to Taipei, where I was born. I've always wanted to do a project here, so I was working hard to find something that would be suitable. And through a friend, we were commissioned to do an aquarium in Taiwan. It's not quite in Taipei, but it's in the northern side of Taiwan, about an hour's drive next to the sea. And an aquarium, we haven't done many aquariums before. How do we do it? And I was commissioned to do the job because of my passion for aquatic species, aquatic creatures, fishing. Last time I was in Thailand, this is a few years ago, I went to a fishing park. But just to be passionate about fishing isn't enough just to design an aquarium for these animals to live in. How do we start? I looked way back to one of our very first projects in England, the Sainsbury's Centre, completed in the 70s. This is one of the first buildings which displayed our collection. But it was also very different. It had the abundant daylight, natural light, so that the objects look different at different time of the day. It also has this very flexible arrangement, so you can arrange the different exhibits, different artifacts. And something closer to London, actually something in London, the British Museum, which people may know, some of you may have visited. It didn't look like this before 2000s. You used to have to go from the west wing to the east wing, so it's very prescribed route, so you go around, and you go from left to right, you go in the loop, and that may take, if you go quickly, 2 hours. If you looked in more detail, maybe 5 hours or an entire day. And we study the psychology of the visitors. People nowadays, with the internet age, everything's at your fingertips with the on-demand TV, YouTube, Google. You can get everything. People want to design their own visit path now. They don't want to have to follow a prescribed route. So when we looked at this, when we put in the Great Court, we knew that people could come in one day and go to visit the Egyptian artifacts, and the next day they can come in and see China, and the following day they can go to see something else. We found that the people are much more willing to come back. People find it much more enjoyable and to be able to design their own visiting routes. So this, again, apart from the hardware, I think the experience is just a little bit improved. This is the Boston Museum, Fine Art Museum, which we also studied, just to see how things are exhibited here. This picture shows us using the entire wall, different colors, different patterns, how we've tried to put the display as low as possible, so you're focusing on the objects, and also using the walls to frame the next thing that we want people to see, and how to use daylight to show some of the objects and art and things that need to be shown in an enclosed space, and something in between, the sculpture carefully placed by the window so that at different times of the day you will see a different shadow cast on the wall, on the floor, so you get different experience. It's a different interaction between space, nature, and people, and also museums and galleries as a social space. This is the center court of the museum. And about this is the Imperial War Museum in London, which was completed about 3 years ago. So again, this is using a very confined space, trying to find other ways to display things that we want people to see. Looking up, there are many dimensions. It's the elevations, it's the soffits, and this is one of the mezzanine floors for functions. We've got these zigzag cutouts so you can look down, so it's another dimension that you can see top down to these planes and the objects that's on show. This is another interesting one, Speroni Museum Gallery in New York. It's unconventional in that it's not a flat building. It's a tower. It's a gallery in a tower. It's very contemporary, and it's to move people up and down. We've had to use this industrial-sized lift. It's a huge lift, which becomes a feature of the building. And the space is not wasted. Inside it is also an exhibit. So while you go up and down, you're also looking. It's part of the experience. You're also looking at different art here, and all these different experiences start to give us clues on how to design things that people would enjoy. So this is one of the tanks in the aquarium. We call the squid lift. So we said, wouldn't that be great if you can come in and you can drive up and down in the lift, left and right. So as if you were swimming with the squids. And of course you pay extra to do that. And we said, wouldn't that be great if kids can come and sleep over, and instead of looking at the stars and the moon, you look at fish or seals. So we designed the tank that's got the screen in the ceiling. And we wanted to show these amazing kelp that grow in the ocean. So we've created a double height space for a big tank, so that people can appreciate the ginormous scale of these creatures. And this is interesting too. This is somewhat a personal experience of mine. I used to buy goldfish, and I used to take them home in a plastic bag. So we thought, wouldn't that be great if you try to recreate this in a different way. So adults my age can look back and try to think of their childhood memories, and kids can also enjoy this as a different way of viewing these animals. And we said, how about integrating technology? This is about, we've done this about 7 years ago. So we thought, wouldn't that be great to integrate wearable technology so you can see things as AR, you can hear, maybe every animal could be named, so they all have names, so you can visit them every month. You see how much they've grown, it gives you its weight, its size. And the information is all on demand. And to make sure that we're doing the right thing, we do our homework. This is a map, a world map of some of the best aquariums in the world. So you see the yellows, the number of visitors, the blues, the number of fish, and number of species in the red. And you see some of these ones, this one in, I think this one in the Philippines, this one in, I think, Atlanta or Orlando, some of the ones in Japan. They're attracting a lot of visitors. How do they do that? And this is looking at the floor area and the tank size. So this is cubic meters of water. Are they relevant? Are bigger spaces and bigger tanks, are they attracting more people? So from there, we're able to draw graphs like this. This is one of the many to say, look, is there a relationship between visitors and floor area? So we found that there's actually a pretty steady trend. This is a trend line. But there are also a couple of, let's say, exceptions. For instance, Boston. It's only got it's about 7,000 square meters, but it's attracting about 1.5 million visitors a year. We're also not a big aquarium, under 15,000 square meters. We want to be doing 2 million people a year. So how do they do that? We're curious. So we study the plan of Boston Aquarium. We know the species split. We know the circulations at basically a main tank, and you're going spirally down. We know how many cubic meters they have. We try to be better than this. And then we come to the psychology of the visits. And with our study, we know people spend, on average, about 37 seconds sitting, about 25 seconds laughing, about 37 seconds sign reading, eating, 14 seconds, discussing over a minute, taking photographs. And then we see the routes. These are different routes of visits. So we talked about the linear route, where you go from A to B. It's very prescribed. It takes you 2 hours, 1.5 hours. Or you can have a square route, where you go in a loop. Or this is a star shape, where you go from a central point. And you can choose where you want to go. Or a lattice, where you're much more organic. You could end up, you don't know where you end up. You're kind of exploring. They have different pros and cons. Obviously, people will spend much longer in this kind of format. It's much more efficient, this format. So it's a balance between what's good economy and what's good for the experience. And when we then studied how many different exhibits there are by type. So they all get a color code. And we also understand that this is not fixed. If you do a different building shape, these different animals or different exhibits, they'll have to change as well to adapt, to make the experience suitable. So we end up with something like this. So this is the rolled out elevation of the visit. So you come in and say at the 30-second mark, you'll be at this point. You're starting with fresh water from a very light space, and you need a break right here. So we know that you're going to get a photo booth, you're going to get a retail, you can buy drinks here. And then another 30 minutes. You're going from fresh water to seawater, and you're getting another rest point here. and then finally you're going to deep water to the main tanks, to the big animals, and that's let's say about 2 hours. So we're mapping out this, so we know exactly what people need to do. And then we looked at the tank experience. We wanted to be able to maximize your experience. What is the best tank to make? So we're testing these out as well. All these are the same volume of water. So some are just longer, some are narrower. So we understand that we try to minimize any corners. So together with the right lighting, you're going to feel immersed in this underwater world. Of course, everything is parametric. So if you're tweaking one constraint, the other things move too. And then we went from inside out. What space do you need to fill a tank like this? And so this is one of the main tanks, freshwater one, showing all the tropical fish. And we wanted this to be very natural, so it's got natural light and real plants. It's like a forest, rainforest here. And this is the main deep sea tank. We want this to be educational as well, so there's a back of house exhibit as well, so families can go behind and see how the animals, how the creatures are nurtured, how they look after them when they're sick, how they feed them, how they grow them. And we did that for every single tank, every single fish. We made different models to test them out. And essentially, it's two boxes, one for freshwater, one for saltwater. And these are some of the options that we looked at. It's only 3 stories tall, so you can see the roof lights. We wanted this to be responsive to the environment. So traditionally, I think we've seen these in big warehouses. They're just big enclosures, but you don't know what's inside. So actually, every one of these boxes means that it's one species behind this. And you can tell what kind of species it is, because if it's translucent, if it's glass, you know it's a freshwater species, because it's a species that is able to, that enjoys daylight. And if you see this as a very solid box, you know this is deep water. It's a species that enjoys a much more controlled environment. And this is another version. In fact, this is the final version where you can see the central courtyard space, which is open to the community. You can see light for the 2 main tanks for freshwater and saltwater. Titanium cladding, so slightly different color titanium, so it doesn't get corroded. You can see the much clearer block here. We which means that all these are much more freshwater species. And it started construction in 2012. It should be finishing mid-year next year. It's the start of the construction. This is the aquarium part of the National Museum in Taiwan over here. And we also try to make it more inclusive, so for the community. So you have an open plaza, which is open to everybody. We're making this a shared surface, so the cars will slow down, and so for much easier for people to cross to get to the marina. And the marina will be open for all kinds of activities for the people. It's a model that we've made, and this is a rendering of the central courtyard. So even if you're not visiting the aquarium, you can come here, have a cup of coffee, you can come with your children to play. It's sheltered, so it's going to be comfortable, it's not too hot. And at night, it could be a place for events. And some of these, we hope, can be open, so the cladding can be removed or retracted, so some of these fish could be on display at night for free. And we hope to introduce night markets and other retail social activities by the waterfront, making this a much more sociable space. And at this point, I realized that we've come a full circle. This is the Sainsbury Centre, the very first project that we looked to for inspiration. It's very interesting. Without us realizing, it's actually very, very similar in scale and in its form. And that interests me, this idea of evolution, idea of influence, idea of just improving. And it's quite evident in the work that we do. This is Norman, I think, must be in the 70s. In the 70s or 80s, and this is his friend and teacher, Buckminster Fuller. And Fuller was very interested in a number of things. One of the things was the geodesic dome. So a very efficient structure, very easy, quick to build. And there's something we've explored further some 50 years on. It's the top of the Swiss Street. And hopefully just a little bit better too. Fuller was also interested in cars, mobility. He designed this car called the Dymaxion. At the time, it was a bigger car, somewhat like a minibus. It's more efficient. It's got smaller turning circles, faster speed, but it didn't take off at the time. I think he made 1 or 2 prototypes. Because I think in the 1930s, other cars looked like this. It just didn't catch on. So we try to see if there are opportunities to be explored further within this model. And this is something that we've looked at a few years ago as a different prototype, the Dymaxion 2. This will be completely using renewable energy, so very lightweight. It doesn't use petrol. It can be self-driven. We're also looking at the ways in which this can be charged. So maybe it's almost like a mobile battery. Maybe the battery can charge up your home as well, your home appliances. So it's more than just a car. It can come into the building because it's lightweight. It has no pollution. And we looked at that for several different models. We looked at light rail, buses, bicycles, and there are actually 20 of these in use in Masdar Carbon Zero City, which is a city about 7 million square meters, still being built, but completely carbon zero. It's the first phase, the MIT Masdar Institute of Technology. There's another photo of it at night. And we've gone back after it's completed the first two phases to make sure it's really performing the way we want it to be. So this is Masdar on the right, Abu Dhabi, same times, same hour, because of the orientation. So you've got direct daylight heating up the floor or the road. You've got air conditioning pumping out hot air on the downtown street. But in Masdar, because of the orientation, you don't get a direct sunlight. And because the buildings are much more well insulated, you don't need so much air conditioning. So the felt temperature is actually only 37 degrees, almost about 15 degrees cooler naturally compared to downtown. And the next place that we designed in was an even harsher environment. Masdar downtown got to about 50, 55 degrees in summer. But in this place, there's about 350 degrees temperature difference. We were approached by the European Space Agency to design a space station on the moon. Right here. And it was quite a challenge. This is quite a while ago. This is about 8 years ago. And from memory, the last time we put a person on the moon was probably in the 70s, early 70s. And I think this is Apollo 17, and he was there for a matter of minutes. This is what the station would look like. Essentially, it's a big bubble filled with oxygen, but it needs a very strong shell to protect yourself from the meteoroids and the temperature difference. But why do they come to us? Maybe the engineers could build this. But at the time, there were no way of getting, well, there's still no way of getting any construction material up to the moon. You wouldn't be able to get steel beams or concrete up there. So we had to use whatever is available, moon dust, as it were. And we have very advanced 3D printing technology at the time. So together we developed this machine.
At one end, it has a scoop to collect the regolith. In the center are the containers for the printing material. At the other end, there is a robotic arm with a printing head. The robot collects regolith from the moon's surface. Layers of this moon dust are built up over the dome to create the protective shell. This process
It's shaped like a
takes about
bird's
3 Earth
bone, because it's very
The shell
lightweight, it's very
is made
strong,
up of a hollow,
and the
closed
insulation
cellular
property is very,
structure.
very good.
Under a microscope, it would look very similar to the structure inside a bird's bone. Like a bone, it is light and incredibly strong at the same time. When the lunar base
And we started making prototypes. This is a computer model of what the structure will look like. This is an actual 3D print. It's much thicker than the computer-generated model because we've made this on Earth, and there's 6 times more gravity here, so everything is just a bit stronger. This is another picture. So after this study was done about 7-8 years ago. We hope it'll be realized one day. And that was about 400,000 kilometers long between Earth and the Moon. Last year, we were approached by NASA to do something much further away, about 400 million kilometers away. So this is the view of Earth. It's building on Mars. Just to get a sense of distance. To send a signal from NASA to this machine would take, if you said turn right, it'll take 20 minutes for the signal to transmit. That's how far it is. So the strategy of building up there, using machines, robots, will have to be very different. So we sent these, probably 100 of these little robots to go up there to be able to collect and 3D print. And we sent so many of them because if any one of these fails, some of the others could be taking up their tasks. So we don't need to resend any machines up there. And these bigger ones are digging a hole for the cavity, for the capsule to come in. And we tested this out. So we had 10 robots, all self-controlled. It's not controlled by human. And they were able to navigate and start building a structure. And we also had to use these different robots, which are almost like microwaves, to heat up the material so it'll be hard enough. And this is one of the views, the vision for Mars Station. And they also asked us to look at the interior, and we thought, what would the interior look like? Would it be like a science fiction movie, full of corridors, everything white? Actually, when we looked at this is the International Space Station, it's actually very, very different. This is the reality. But this is not a very nice place to live in for 6 months, let alone years, if you would go to Mars. So we looked to something we thought may be the closest thing on Earth. So this is the British Antarctic exploration. And the people here were the scientists who spent months in this space. And actually, their living space is very homely, very tactile. So we thought, actually, if we were to design a space here, we'd make it with timber floors, 3D printed, obviously, maybe even with plants. We tried to make it just a little bit easier to live in this harsh environment. This is my desk. So I just want to talk about a little bit about the latest project that I'm working on. So it's always full of models and drawings. It changes every day. This is a new headquarters for DJI. They make and design, manufacture drones. It's based in Shenzhen, China. We've gone through probably about 100 options to make sure it's the right option for the right site. It's another view on the south. And it's a little bit different than a normal office space because the industry is changing, technology is changing. We needed these very large flexible spaces for different types of machines, testing, just to be flexible for the future. It's another view from the south. And also at this point, we see the connection to one of the very first FOSTA projects that I studied, the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. It's also a bridge structure-like building, hung or suspended between two structures, like the DJI buildings, 200 meters, all hung on a single core, 200 meters tall. 3 blocks all hang on this concrete structure. And the next clip is something that we've been working on. It's a preview of what's to come. We're working on this tower. It's a totally integrated project. The architecture, interior, lighting, landscape, structure. This will be built in 3 years, completion in 2020. Thank you.
And that was amazing. And that was such a wonderful moment from your sharing. I was thinking about visiting National Aquarium in Taiwan after mid-year next year because the project is going to finish, right?
Yes, we hope so.
All right. So that's another great place to go. I mean, it's not so far from Thailand and Phuket at all. But while we are aiming to go to Taiwan, but you guys are aiming to go to Mars or moons already. So that's a little bit too far for us. But anyway, it was a wonderful moment for sharing, and it served as an eye opener for many of us. And well, I think this is brought some interesting idea for audience further discussion and creativity. So this is a time for question and answer if they have. So ตั้งแต่ตอนนี้เป็นต้นไปนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะเปิดโอกาสให้ได้มีโอกาสซักถามท่านวิทยากรหรือ guest speaker ของเราค่ะหลังจากที่ได้รับฟังไปแล้วดิฉันเชื่อว่านอกเหนือจากความตื่นตาตื่นใจฉันเองนี่นั่งฟังไปยิ้มไปนะคิดว่าพี่ประเสริฐก็เหมือนกันเพราะฉะนั้นอยากกระนั้นเลยค่ะเชื่อว่าหลายท่านน่าจะมีคำถามอยู่ในใจมีคำถามอะไรถามได้เลยนะคะเดี๋ยวเราช่วยค่ะเชิญค่ะ
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just have one quick question that Foster and Partner is one of the best design firm in the world for 30 years. But for the next 10 years, 20 years, how you can ensure you stay on top and refresh your brand to be the brand in the heart for the future? How your brand will stay young and active? I mean, what sort of mechanism inside your brand to make sure that your brand for the youngster, for the next generation, they will think of you, not another people or younger, newer firm. Yeah, that's the question.
Thank you. Thanks, Boon. I think it's a good question. I think every design practice has to think about how does the practice or how does the design ethos continue. We've been going for 50 years. There's enough of my colleagues around. We always do things as a team, as teamwork. So we're always sharing ideas, sometimes debating, sometimes sharing, sometimes sometimes there's a lot of friction, but we come up with different ideas through this process. I think we're fortunate enough to have so many different talented people. There's, like I mentioned, there's engineers, there's scientists, there are even rocket scientists, we have a DJ, we have filmmakers, we have photographers, we have artists in the office, so they all bring different ideas to the table. So I think that's one aspect. And the other aspect is that we work with very talented clients and consultant teams too. These different clients also bring new ideas and new challenges to us. And that makes us think. Sometimes we have to think outside the box. And that's what makes the job interesting. And I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy being challenged. With, for instance, the DJI, the last project I was showing, it's also a very young client in his mid-30s, and it's in a completely different background, also in design. And his approach, we have to adapt to his approach as well. I think all of these aspects help us to continue to innovate, and that's very important for us.
Thank you.
ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะเมื่อสักครู่นะคะทางคุณบุญท่านนายกสมาคมอสังหาริมทรัพย์ภูเก็ตนะคะท่านได้ตั้งคำถามค่ะไปยังมิสเตอร์ยังชิวว่าเขาจะแน่ใจได้อย่างไรว่าเมื่อเวลาผ่านไปนั้น Foster and Partners ซึ่งในขณะนี้เป็นบริษัทออกแบบชั้นนำของโลกจะยังคงความเป็นผู้นำไว้ได้ในอนาคตนะคะโดยไม่เปลี่ยนแปลงเขาเตรียมพร้อมรับมือกับการเปลี่ยนแปลงอย่างไรเพื่อให้แน่ใจถึงความยั่งยืนในเชิงธุรกิจซึ่งเมื่อสักครู่นะคะมิสเตอร์ยังชิวก็ได้ให้ความเห็นไม่น่าสนใจนะคะท่านบอกว่าสิ่งสำคัญมากๆเลยก็คือทุนมนุษย์เนื่องจากในองค์กรเนี่ย อาศัยการผนึกกำลังแล้วก็ผสานความต่างของคนในองค์กรที่หลากหลายความสามารถหลากหลายพื้นฐานการศึกษานะคะเมื่อสักครู่นี้เขาบอกว่าองค์กรที่ออกแบบไม่ได้มีแค่สถาปนิกแต่มีไปจนถึงนะคะนักตัดต่อหนังเนาะมีไปจนถึงดีเจหรือว่านักจิตวิทยาซึ่งหลายๆครั้งเขาได้พูดถึงนะคะก็รวมกันทำงานเพื่อที่จะให้เกิดหลากหลายมิติของการที่จะสร้างแต่ละโปรเจกต์ขึ้นมาและที่สำคัญก็คือทุกคนจะต้องพร้อมที่จะปรับตัวเพราะว่าบริษัทเนี่ยมีอายุมากขึ้นแต่ว่าลูกค้าเนี่ยอาจจะมีลูกค้าใหม่ๆซึ่งอายุน้อยๆลงดังนั้นก็จึงเป็นเรื่องที่ท้าทายแล้วทุกคนก็จะต้องรู้สึกเรียนรู้ที่จะชอบที่จะอยู่กับความท้าทายนี้ให้ได้นะคะเพราะมันจะมีผลกับการพัฒนาทั้งตัวในระดับตัวบุคคลเองแล้วก็ในระดับองค์กรด้วยก็เป็นคำถามที่น่าจะเป็นประโยชน์กับทุกคนที่อยู่ในที่นี้เลยทีเดียวต้องขอบคุณคุณบุญค่ะมีคำถามอื่นอีกไหมคะเชิญค่ะตรงไหนเอ่ย
I want to know about how you manage everyone that you become to use diversity people. Seem like the professional each seem like professional each engineer, architect, and everyone become the one base design to seem like to present your project. How you manage everyone?Together become the one base project.
How do we?
How you manage everyone?
How are we integrated as one team?
Yes. Because you told me that you coordinate, right? You cooperate together.
Yes.
So how you manage every person? Because everyone have their own opinion. So how become the one team?Yeah,
I think that's also a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Everything is led by design. So, and you can see from what I've shared with you, we don't have. It's not design isn't magic. We don't come with a sketch and say, everybody you should follow this sketch because this is the right answer. Is my idea. Everybody has ideas.But it's important to be able to test these ideas and prove that it's correct, it's the right way forward. So you can see through research, extensive research and testing, we're able to, everybody's equal, everybody on the team is invited to talk and share ideas and debate. And we go back and we do a lot of work to prove that these theories, these ideas are right.For the project, so there's no in the end, it's a very natural process. You find the right answer through just hard work and going through the wrong options.
ค่ะเมื่อสักครู่นะคะคำถามของท่านสุภาพสตรีเมื่อสักครู่ได้ถามว่า Foster and Partners นี่มีแนวทางอย่างไรในการที่จะทำให้ศักยภาพของบุคคลที่แตกต่างกันนะคะทางด้านวิชาชีพด้านสาขาและประสบการณ์เนี่ยสามารถที่จะผนึกกำลังประสานความต่างได้เมื่อสักครู่นะคะคุณมิสเตอร์ยังชูก็ได้บอกว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยบริษัทเนี่ยแก่นแท้ของบริษัทก็คือมันถูกชี้นำด้วยเรื่องของการดีไซน์ดังนั้นมันไม่มีอะไรหรอกที่จะเป็น one best answer ได้ตั้งแต่ต้นนึกออกไหมคะจะต้องมีการลองผิดลองถูกจะต้องมีการสร้างทางเลือกมากมายเพื่อที่จะตัดสินใจในสิ่งที่เป็นไปได้แล้วก็ต้องการมุมมองหลากหลายมิติดังนั้นจึงต้องการความหลากหลายของบุคคลเพื่อที่จะไปทำงานร่วมกันความต่างไม่ใช่ปัญหานะคะความตั้งใจทำงานการสู้งานหนักแล้วก็ความคิดสร้างสรรค์สำคัญที่สุดค่ะเดี๋ยวขออีกหนึ่งคำถามนะคะเนื่องจากเวลาล่วงเลยมานานแล้วเรียนเชิญค่ะ
ถามแทนคนไทยนะฮะค่าฟรีแพงไหมฮะ1ข้อ2เวลาในการ involve โปรเจกต์เนี่ยใช้เวลาเยอะไหมฮะผมเห็นบางโปรเจกต์เนี่ยมันน่าสนใจมากน่าจะใช้เวลาทำงานนาน2คำถามครับ
Okay, this is one of the most interesting question. Even Kun Boon is just laughing at the moment. The question was, how much did you charge? And how long does the project is going to take normally when you are doing the project? Because it seems like you are doing so much of that, so many mega projects, as well as the luxury projects. So the minimum fee probably that would possibly charge if you are doing the project. That's the first question.
There's no minimum fee, really. You know that's the answer. We do all kinds of projects. The smallest ones we do. I had some on the slides, but in the end I decided not to show it. We're doing a school in Africa, I think Sierra Leone, and the whole construction is only $10,000. So and design fee is free. So we designed these containers or structure for people, for the local village to go to school. We've designed these drone ports also in Rwanda, so that supplies, blood, food could be flown to most part of the country. Again, that's a charity work. I think it all depends on the project. You know, occasionally we've taken on projects that won't make any money, but they just will be better for the community and better for us, for everybody. So I think that I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. เมื่อสักครู่นะคะคุณยังชูบอกว่าเอาเข้าจริงแล้วเนี่ยมันไม่มีหรอกค่ะอัตราต่ำสุดสำหรับนะคะค่าโปรเจกต์แต่เพราะจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยมันไม่ได้มีแต่เฉพาะโปรเจกต์ที่เป็นไมโครโปรเจกต์หรือว่าโปรเจกต์ราคาแพงเท่านั้นหลายๆครั้งค่ะที่ก็รับโปรเจกต์ที่เป็นการกุศลถ้าเห็นว่ามันจะเป็นประโยชน์แล้วก็สำหรับมีคุณค่ากับคุณภาพชีวิตนะคะอย่างเช่นโปรเจกต์ที่เมื่อสักครู่บอกว่าสร้างโรงเรียนในประเทศที่ทุรกันดารนะคะก็จะได้ประโยชน์กับสังคมดังนั้นทั้งหมดเนี่ยค่ะก็ต้องขึ้นอยู่กับความเหมาะสมนะคะของโอกาสแล้วก็ความจำเป็นด้วยนะคะเนื่องจากเวลาล่วงเลยไปแล้วนะคะดิฉันก็คงต้องขอปิดในช่วงของการถามตอบอย่างไรก็ตามต้องขอบคุณพี่ประเสริฐมากเนื่องจากเดิมทีเนี่ยเราไม่ได้ช่วยอะไรมากนะไม่เป็นไรค่ะเนื่องจากเดิมทีเนี่ยต้องบอกว่าเราไม่แน่ใจว่าจะมีสิ่งที่บรรยายเป็น technical term มากน้อยแค่ไหนก็เลยจำเป็นที่จะต้องมีคนที่มีความชำนาญด้านสถาปนิกและการออกแบบมาอยู่กับเราเพื่อความอุ่นใจของดิฉันเองนะคะแต่อย่างไรก็ตามการมีพี่ยืนอยู่ตรงนี้ก็ช่วยให้เราทำงานได้อย่างคล่องตัวมากขึ้นค่ะอย่างไรก็ตามขอบคุณพี่ประเสริฐมากขอเสียงตบมือให้พี่ประเสริฐค่ะคุณประเสริฐจันหอมนะคะกรรมการบริษัท Original Vision ประเทศไทยจำกัดค่ะเอาละค่ะและสำหรับในตอนนี้นะคะเราได้เข้ามาสู่ช่วงสุดท้ายของการสัมมนาในวันนี้แล้ว I would like to thank Mr. Yang Chiu for a wonderful moment from your sharing. And at the end of the lecture, I'm certain that we all are benefit from your experience. And this lecture is also served as an eye-opener for many people, including me, as it brought some interesting idea for audience further discussion and creativity. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being here for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
เอาละค่ะและในขณะนี้เราดำเนินมาถึงช่วงสุดท้ายของงาน Dinner Talk นะคะในหัวข้อแนวทางการออกแบบตามแนวทางของบริษัท Foster and Partners ค่ะซึ่งจัดขึ้นด้วยความร่วมมือของสมาคมอสังหาริมทรัพย์ภูเก็ตนะคะและกรรมาธิการสถาปนิกทักษิณศูนย์ภาคใต้ฝั่งอันดามันค่ะในโอกาสนี้ดิฉันขอเรียนเชิญคุณบุญนะคะได้มอบของที่ระลึกและขอบคุณวิทยากรทั้งสองท่านขอเรียนเชิญ
Thank